New revelations have just come out, which not only shed new light on the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates, but also it sheds new light on how Epstein actually operated things, meaning how he was able to hold sensitive information over the heads of wealthy and powerful individuals. Now, these revelations came in the forms of new emails as well as new documents that were reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. And these emails, they reveal how, after Jeffrey Epstein discovered that Bill Gates had an alleged affair with a young Russian woman, he used that fact, that piece of compromising information, to then turn around and threaten Bill Gates, who was married at the time. But it actually gets a lot deeper than that. However, before we dive into the specifics, I'd like to mention two important things. For one, we here at the Epoch Times didn't have access to these emails ourselves, and so we have to take the word of the Wall Street Journal for what they say in terms of what the emails actually contained. And second of all, if you appreciate content like this, I do hope you take a super quick moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons, which will force the YouTube algorithm to share this video out to ever more people. Now, to start with, it appears that besides trying to get a vaccine into the arm of every single human being on the planet, well, Mr. Bill Gates has another hobby, the card game Bridge. And along that line, back in the year 2010, Bill Gates attended a bridge tournament where, among other things, he met this young woman right here. Her name is Mila Antonova, and she is a young Russian woman who happens to be a bridge enthusiast. And here's how the Wall Street Journal described what took place back in the year 2010. Quote, "The Microsoft co-founder met the woman around 2010, when she was in her 20s. Gates has said he learned to play bridge from his parents, and the card game became one of his favorite hobbies. Gates played with Antonova, another devotee of the game. She attended a university in Russia between 2000 and 2005, according to her LinkedIn profile. She later founded a bridge club in the US before taking on several roles as a software engineer in the Bay Area, her LinkedIn profile shows." And interestingly, there's actually a short excerpt from a speech that this young woman gave shortly after that 2010 game, in which she detailed what it was like to play against Bill Gates.
That's 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I said everyone that I'm going to meet this guy. Nobody believed me. Last year, I played against him at the same table at the National Bridge Tournament in Washington, D.C. I didn't beat him, but I tried to kick him with my leg.
Now, this is where things take a turn for the, you can say, odd. Because according to this report from the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Bill Gates, who was married at the time, and Miss Antonova had an affair. Now again, the Wall Street Journal did not provide the emails that they used to substantiate this claim, and for her part, Miss Antonova declined to comment on this aspect of the story. And so you can take it for what it's worth, and you can believe what you will. Regardless, here is what happened next. Miss Antonova had an idea. She wanted to start an online business teaching people how to play the game of bridge. It would be basically an online portal with tutorials for both beginner and advanced players. And along that line, she was seeking funding for the project. Specifically, she was looking for about $500,000 of venture capital to get her project off the ground. And this is where one of Bill Gates' confidants, he steps in and he makes a crucial connection. The confidant in question is a man by the name of Boris Nikolic. He's a close advisor to Bill Gates, and according to the article, here's what happened. Quote, "Antonova had an idea to start an online business to teach people how to play bridge, and she sought funds for it. Boris Nikolic, a Gates confidant and top science advisor at the time, who also knew Epstein, introduced Antonova to Epstein to help her raise the funds. Antonova and Nikolic met at Epstein's townhouse in November of 2013, where she presented her proposal to Epstein, who provided feedback. She was looking to raise $500,000 for the venture, which she called Bridge Planet. Its mission was to promote bridge by creating quality tutorials for beginners and advanced players. On November 9th, Antonova wrote an email to thank Epstein for the meeting and reviewing the proposal. Epstein ultimately didn't invest in the project." Now, it is worth mentioning that for her part, Ms. Antonova said that she had no idea about who Jeffrey Epstein was at this particular time. Here was a statement that she made when she was requested for comment. Quote, "I had no idea that he was a criminal or had any ulterior motive. I just thought he was a successful businessman and wanted to help. I am disgusted with Epstein and what he did." Regardless, getting back to the timeline of events, despite this unsuccessful attempt at getting venture capital, it appears that Epstein, for some reason, continued to see himself as somewhat of a benefactor for this young woman. For instance, the very next year, in 2014, Ms. Antonova stayed briefly in a New York City apartment that was provided to her by Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, although she added that, quote, "I didn't interact with him or with anyone else while there." Then, after seeing her online bridge project fail to secure the necessary funding, Ms. Antonova decided to switch gears a little bit and instead pursue a career in computer programming, which she was able to do thanks to an education that was funded by Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. Here's specifically what the Wall Street Journal report says on this particular issue. Quote, after she failed to secure funding for Bridge Planet, Antonova said she decided to become a software programmer and asked several people to lend her money for a programming boot camp. Epstein agreed to pay, and he paid directly to the school. Nothing was exchanged. I don't know why he did that. When I asked, he said something like he was wealthy and wanted to help people when he could. Okay, so at this point, here's a basic timeline of what's happened, according to this report. Bill Gates meets this young woman at a bridge tournament. The two of them allegedly have an affair. Bill Gates' top aide introduces her to Jeffrey Epstein in order to help her secure funding. The funding doesn't come through, but instead Jeffrey Epstein begins to act as this young woman's benefactor, taking care of her New York City lodging and paying for her computer programming classes. Sounds like a generally good deal for the young lady. However, it appears that Mr. Epstein had his own agenda beyond just being a nice, rich uncle type. That's because, as all this was actually happening, Jeffrey Epstein was also trying to use his relationship with Bill Gates to set up a multi-billion-dollar fund over at JP Chase. This would be a charitable fund that would, for one, make Epstein millions of dollars in fees, and secondly, it would help to rehabilitate his image, given the fact that by this point he was already a convicted and registered sex offender. Here's how the report describes this part. Quote, at the time, Epstein was trying to set up a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund with JP Morgan that would potentially pool money from some of the world's wealthiest people. Epstein proposed that JP Morgan set up the fund with a minimum $100 million contribution per individual and pay him, meaning Epstein, millions of dollars in fees. In addition to the fees, the disgraced financier saw the fund as a way to rehabilitate his reputation, according to people he told of his thinking. However, it hinged on securing support from Gates. But the story actually gets a lot deeper than that. Sorry, is it raining money? Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. Now, American Hartford Gold is one of the best companies in the game. Besides myself, they have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins. And best of all, they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good because not only do they have friendly staff, but they're a patriotic company that actually sponsors a program like ours, so you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. So giving them a call is a real no-brainer. So hit them up. It's 866-242-2352. That's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Roman to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio. And just to pause here for a super quick moment, that last point, it's really critical, it's crucial. This whole project of his was hinged on support from the world's richest man, at the time at least, Mr. Bill Gates. And as such, Epstein appears here to be leveraging that relationship to its limit. Here's how the report continues. Quote, Epstein's messages to the bank executives, which were peppered with typos and spelling errors, tried to give the impression that he was a close Gates advisor. Gates wasn't included on the emails reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. And then here are some of the emails that were sent from Epstein to these JP Chase executives. Quote, in essence, this fund will allow Bill to have access to higher quality people, investment, allocation, governance without upsetting either his marriage or the sensitivities of the current foundation employees. That was August 16th of 2011. Another email. Bill is terribly frustrated. He would like to boost some of the things that are working without taking away from those that are not. That's August 17th. On October 2nd, Epstein sent another email to these two executives criticizing a presentation that JP Morgan had prepared regarding this project. Quote, and this is Epstein, quote, the presentation is not tailored to Bill. He is the only person, the only one that counts. However, after several months of back and forth between Epstein, Gates, and the JP Chase bankers, this charitable fund failed. It was never established, which then led to an amazing revelation about the inner workings of Jeffrey Epstein, as well as how his whole operation of influence peddling actually functions. Here is what the report said, quote, several years of discussions with JP Morgan, Gates, and others failed to yield the charitable fund for Epstein or Gates' commitment to it. In 2017, Epstein contacted Bill Gates about the Russian bridge player years after the relationship had ended, according to people familiar with the matter. He sent an email to Gates asking to be reimbursed for the cost of Antonova's coding school. The sum was immaterial for the two men, and the tone of the message was that Epstein knew about the affair and could expose it. And there you have it. The cost of a programming boot camp was $10,000, $20,000, maybe $30,000 at most, depending on where it was. And for these two men, who have hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, the money is nothing. It's quite literally pocket change. Instead, it appears that Epstein brought up the school payment only as a way to remind Bill Gates that he has compromising information. Now, a spokesperson for Bill Gates said that Bill never reimbursed any such payments to Epstein, but perhaps more importantly, it appears that Bill Gates should have just listened to his wife. Here was Melinda Gates speaking about Epstein shortly after her divorce from Bill.
You know, it was also widely reported that Bill had a friendship or business or some kind of contact with Jeffrey Epstein, and that you were not, that was very upsetting to you. Did that play a role in the divorce at all in this process?
Yeah, as I said, it's not one thing, it was many things. But I did not like that he'd had meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you made that clear to him?
I made that clear to him. I also met Jeffrey Epstein exactly one time.
Did you?
Yes, because I wanted to see who this man was. And I regretted it from the second I stepped in the door. He was abhorrent. He was evil personified. I had nightmares about it afterwards. So, you know, my heart breaks for these young women because that's how I felt. And here I'm an older woman. My God, I feel terrible for those young women. It's awful.
You felt that the moment you walked in? I didn't realize that.
He was awful.
Yeah. And you shared that with Bill, and he still continued to spend time with him?
Any of the questions remaining about what Bill's relationship there was, those are for Bill to answer.
Okay.
But I made it very clear how I felt about him.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, for his part, when Bill was asked about the connection to Epstein point blank in an interview, his response left a little bit more to be desired.
It was reported that you continued to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, you know, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so you know, in general, you always have to be careful, and you know I'm.
Regardless, if you'd like to go deeper into the story, I'll throw some of the original documents. They will be down in the description box below this video, so you can click on them and read them at your own leisure. And then lastly, there's something else I'd like to mention in passing. Late last week, our sister media, NTD, they put a trailer for the new documentary up on YouTube. That documentary is called The Unseen Crisis, and it includes a number of interviews with people who were vaccine injured. Now, regardless of what you think of the topic, it is important. These are real-life stories of real-life people who went along with the program, they rolled up their sleeves, they took the shot, they were unfortunately severely injured, and then subsequently, they were completely ignored. But wouldn't you know it? Within just minutes of them uploading that trailer, it was taken down. Just like that, the supposed platform, the one called YouTube, took down the trailer for a fact-based documentary which took about half a year of traveling around the country to put together. Think about that. No matter how much real-life reporting goes into something like that, some random algorithm picks up certain keywords that it doesn't like, and then that's it. Americans no longer have access to the information. Regardless, if you would like to check out that documentary, The Unseen Crisis, you can watch it over on EpochTV, our awesome no-censorship video platform. The link to it will be right there at the very, very, very top of the description box below. All you have to do is click on that link, and you can head on over and watch The Unseen Crisis documentary right away. Again, that link is right there at the very top of the description box below. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.